But then, as they continue driving south, Betty notices the aircraft appears to be stalking them.
Betty said to Barney, "It's coming closer, Barney." As they looked at it, it flew in a zigzag pattern, and then it appeared to bounce back and forth in the sky like a ping pong ball.
The reason I was taken aboard was because there was no choice. I would have been dead.
We don't know, sir. So can I get some? Yeah, it's a strange, small red light. Looks to be maybe a quarter to half mile, maybe further out.
Have you ever wondered what you'd do if a UFO hovered over your car, surrounded by military helicopters, and left you with radiation burns? Well, that's exactly what happened to this family, and the evidence they have is truly out of this world. There are plenty of wild UFO stories out there, but few come with physical evidence. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and well-documented cases ever reported, the Cash Landrum incident. This is where a couple experienced radiation burns after a close encounter with a UFO. We'll also uncover some of the most well-documented UFO incidents, from the infamous Roswell crash to the aerial school sighting in Zimbabwe, where 62 children claimed they saw aliens. These stories are going to blow your mind. So, without further delay, let's dive in. Number 1. The Rendlesham Forest Incident. In late December 1980, strange lights were spotted in the dense woods of Rendlesham Forest, England. This event, known as the Rendlesham Forest Incident, has been dubbed Britain's Roswell due to the credibility of the witnesses involved. Military personnel from the nearby RAF Woodbridge, operated by the US Air Force, witnessed these bizarre lights over 2 nights. On December 26th, Airman John Burroughs and Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston ventured into the forest, expecting to find a downed aircraft. Instead, they stumbled upon a glowing, metallic, triangular object. Peniston even claimed to have touched the craft, noting strange, hieroglyphic-like symbols on its surface. Just as quickly as it appeared, the object lifted off and vanished. But that wasn't the end. 2 nights later, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt led a team back into the woods. This time, they brought audio recording equipment, capturing what is now known as the Holt tape. They saw more unexplained lights.
305. We see strange strobe-like flashes to the rather sporadic, but there's definitely something, some kind of phenomenon.
Including a red object that emitted light beams onto the ground. These recordings, along with radiation readings higher than normal, have left many questioning what happened in Rendlesham Forest. Was it an alien visitation or just military technology we weren't supposed to know about? To this day, the incident remains unsolved, adding to the intrigue of possible extraterrestrial encounters. Number 2. The Roswell Incident. Perhaps no UFO event is more famous than the Roswell Incident. In July 1947, rancher William Mack Brazel discovered strange debris on his land near Roswell, New Mexico. Initially, the U.S. Army Air Force reported that they had recovered a flying disc, but within 24 hours, the story changed. The military now claimed the debris was just a weather balloon. Yet, many believe this was the start of a massive cover-up. Witnesses, including Major Jesse Marcel, who investigated the site, suggested that the materials they found were unlike anything they'd seen before. Lightweight, yet strong and impossible to damage. Some even claim that alien bodies were recovered and taken to the notorious Area 51. In the 1990s, the US government attempted to clarify the incident by stating that the wreckage was part of Project Mogul, a top-secret operation involving high-altitude balloons designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. But by then, the Roswell incident had taken on a life of its own. Conspiracy theorists argue that the military explanation was just another layer of deception. Is it all just government secrecy, or could Roswell be the key to proving extraterrestrial life? Number 3. The Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, thousands of people across Arizona, Nevada, and even parts of Mexico saw something incredible. This event, known as the Phoenix Lights, is still one of the most famous mass UFO sightings in history. It all started around 8 p.m. when a huge, V-shaped formation of lights appeared in the sky, moving silently across the area. Witnesses said the object was enormous, about the size of several football fields, and completely unlike anything they had ever seen before. Some people heard a faint humming sound, while others noticed the strange silence as the craft passed by, blocking out the stars. Later that night, another set of lights appeared, this time hovering over Phoenix itself. The U.S. Air Force explained this second sighting as flares dropped during military training exercises. However, many people weren't convinced. They felt that the size, shape, and way the first lights moved didn't match flares or any known aircraft. Even the governor at the time, Fife Symington, who had initially joked about the event, later admitted that he saw the lights too and believed they were something mysterious. Were these lights from an alien spacecraft, or were they some kind of advanced military technology? The mystery of the Phoenix lights still leaves us wondering if we're alone in the universe. Number 4. The aerial school incident. In 1994, a small rural town in Zimbabwe became the center of one of the most incredible UFO encounters ever reported, known as the aerial school incident. This event involved 62 children, ages 6 to 12, who claimed they saw something unbelievable. It happened on the morning of September 16th at Ariel's school. The students were outside enjoying their break when they saw strange, silver disc-shaped objects hovering or landing just beyond the school grounds. The children described the crafts as metallic and shiny, about the size of 2 or 3 cars. But the most unsettling part wasn't the crafts, it was what came out of them. Several children said they saw small beings coming out of the craft. These beings were about 3 to 4 feet tall, with gray skin, big black eyes, and wearing tight black suits. Some children even said they received telepathic messages from the beings, warning them about environmental harm and telling humans to take better care of the Earth. What makes this incident stand out is how consistent the children's stories were. They described similar details about the beings, the crafts, and how they felt during the event. The children, from different backgrounds and ages, also drew pictures of the strange figures and discs they saw, and their drawings looked very similar. Skeptics think it might have been mass hysteria, or that the kids' imaginations were influenced by the media. However, the children's emotional reactions and their clear descriptions have kept people talking about the event for years. The aerial school incident is still one of the most mysterious and important cases in UFO research, reminding us that some things are hard to explain. Chapter 5. The Lonnie Zamora Incident. The Lonnie Zamora Incident is one of the most believable UFO encounters ever reported. It involved a trusted police officer and some strong physical evidence. On April 24, 1964, near Socorro, New Mexico, Officer Lonnie Zamora saw something very strange. While chasing a speeding car, Zamora heard a roar and saw a bluish flame in the sky. Thinking it might be an explosion, he stopped the chase and drove toward the noise. What he found was an egg-shaped craft sitting on the ground, with 2 small figures dressed in white standing next to it. As he got closer, the figures went back into the craft. Then, with a roar and flames coming from the bottom, the object lifted off and flew away. What makes this case stand out is the evidence left behind. Other officers found burned brush, deep marks in the ground where the craft had landed, and signs of very high heat. This wasn't just a sighting. Something physical had been there. The U.S. Air Force's UFO investigation program, Project Blue Book, looked into the case seriously. Despite all their research, no one could explain what Zamora had seen. Some people think it might have been a secret military experiment, especially since it happened near some testing sites. But the craft didn't look like anything known at the time. Zamora, who was known for being honest, never changed his story, even when people made fun of him. The incident is still one of the most puzzling and well-documented UFO cases in history, leaving many to wonder what landed in Socorro that day. Chapter 6. The Betty and Barney Hill abduction. The Betty and Barney Hill abduction is one of the most famous alien abduction stories ever told. This strange event happened in September 1961 when the couple was driving through northern New Hampshire after a vacation in Canada. It started as a calm drive under the stars, but that didn't last. Betty noticed a strange light in the sky that seemed to be following them. At first, they thought it might be a plane, but it was moving in a strangely. They pulled over to get a better look, and Barney saw what looked like a craft with figures inside. Scared, they quickly drove away. Suddenly, the couple realized they had lost 2 hours. When they woke up, they were 35 miles further down the road and didn't remember how they got there. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. Their car had mysterious marks on it, and Barney's shoes were badly scuffed. Both Betty and Barney also began having vivid nightmares of being examined by strange beings. Looking for answers, they decided to undergo hypnosis. Under hypnosis, both Betty and Barney described similar memories of being taken by small beings with gray skin, large heads, and black, almond-shaped eyes. They said these beings did medical tests on them and communicated with them through telepathy. Some people think it could have been a shared hallucination or a psychological event, but the details they gave, especially Betty's star map, showing a faraway star system that was later identified as Zeta Reticuli, made many believe their story was real. The Hills experience became a famous part of UFO culture and shaped how alien abduction stories have been told ever since. Chapter 7. The Travis Walton Abduction. The story of Travis Walton's abduction is both fascinating and controversial. It all started on November 5, 1975, in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest near Snowflake, Arizona. Travis Walton, a 22-year-old logger, was working with 6 of his co-workers when they saw something strange, a glowing, disc-shaped object hovering over the forest floor. The UFO was about 8 feet tall and 20 feet wide, glowing with a bluish-green light. Despite his crew's warnings, Walton got out of the truck and walked toward the mysterious craft. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the UFO, hitting Walton and sending him flying through the air. His co-workers were terrified and drove off in fear, thinking he was dead. But when they returned to look for him, both Walton and the UFO were gone. The crew reported what happened, and soon a big search began to find Walton. He was missing for 5 days, and during that time, some people thought the crew had made up the story to cover up something bad. However, after passing lie detector tests, they were cleared of any wrongdoing. When Walton finally reappeared, he was confused and disoriented. He claimed he had been taken aboard the UFO, where he encountered strange, humanoid beings. He said he was in a room that felt like a hospital and had a terrifying experience of being examined by these aliens. Even though some people doubted his story, Walton has stuck to the same account over the years, and the crew's testimony supports it. To this day, the Travis Walton abduction remains one of the most talked about cases in UFO history. Chapter 8. The Washington, D.C. UFO Incident. In the summer of 1952, something strange happened in the skies over Washington, D.C. It became one of the most famous UFO events in U.S. history. On the nights of July 19th and July 26th, radar operators, military pilots, and even regular people on the ground saw unidentified objects flying in the sky. These weren't just random blips. These UFOs made impossible moves, flying over restricted areas like the White House and Capitol without any trouble. The radar at Washington National Airport and Andrews Air Force Base picked up the fast-moving objects, and pilots and air traffic controllers saw bright, glowing lights, sometimes white and sometimes orange. What made it even stranger was that the objects would disappear whenever fighter jets tried to intercept them. One pilot, Lieutenant William Patterson, reported seeing 4 UFOs right in front of him, but before he could do anything, they sped away and vanished. As news of the sighting spread, the public grew worried, and the U.S. Air Force was pushed to explain what was going on. Their official answer: they blamed it on temperature inversion, a weather condition that can mess with radar and make it seem like there are objects when there aren't. But a lot of people didn't buy this explanation, especially since so many different people saw the same thing, both on the radar and with their own eyes. Even President Harry S. Truman got involved, wanting to know what was happening. The Washington, D.C. UFO incident is still one of the most talked about and mysterious UFO cases in history, and many believe the full story hasn't been told. Chapter 9. The Belgian UFO Wave. Between November 1989 and April 1990, Belgium had its wave of strange UFO sightings. Known as the Belgian UFO Wave, this wasn't just a few people seeing things. Thousands of witnesses, including police officers and military personnel, saw large, silent, triangular crafts flying low over the country. And it wasn't just word of mouth. Radar operators also confirmed the sightings, and the Belgian Air Force even sent fighter jets to chase these mysterious objects. It all started on November 29, 1989, when two police officers in the Eupen region saw a massive triangular craft with lights at each corner. Soon after, more and more people across the country reported seeing the same thing. The crafts were often slow and quiet, sometimes hovering in one spot, and then suddenly they would accelerate at speeds far beyond anything known to us. The biggest event of this wave came on March 30th, 1990. Radar stations detected unidentified objects, and F-16 fighter jets were sent out to investigate. The jets were able to lock onto the UFOs for a brief moment, but the objects performed impossible maneuvers and disappeared before the pilots could see them. Radar recordings showed the UFOs moving at speeds and with forces that no human could survive. Despite looking into it for months, the Belgian Air Force couldn't find a solid explanation. Some thought maybe it was a secret experimental aircraft from another country, but Belgium asked its NATO allies, including the US, and they all denied having anything to do with it. The Belgian UFO wave remains one of the most credible UFO cases in history because of the radar data, military involvement, and the sheer number of people who saw the strange, triangular crafts. To this day, no one knows for sure what those objects were or where they came from. Chapter 10. The Pascagoula Abduction. On the night of October 11, 1973, two men fishing by the Pascagoula River in Mississippi found themselves at the center of one of the most famous alien abduction stories ever. Charles Hickson, 42, and his friend Calvin Parker, 19, were having a quiet evening when they noticed a strange bluish light in the distance. At first they thought it might be a police car, but they were about to face something far more terrifying. A huge, oval-shaped craft suddenly descended toward them, hovering just above the ground. It didn't have any windows and made a strange buzzing sound. Then the craft opened and three bizarre beings came out. These creatures were about 5 feet tall, with wrinkled skin like an elephant, conical heads, and claw-like hands. They floated toward the men, who were frozen in fear, unable to move. The beings took them aboard the craft, where they were put through what seemed like medical exams. Hickson remembered being scanned by an eye-like device, while Parker was so terrified he could only recall bits and pieces of what happened. After 20 terrifying minutes, they found themselves back on the riverbank, confused and shaken. Even though they were scared to report it, they went to the local sheriff's office. The police didn't believe them at first, so they secretly recorded the men's private conversations. What they heard wasn't a joke or a prank. It was two men in real fear. News of the encounter spread quickly, attracting both believers and skeptics. Over time, polygraph tests, witnesses, and the lasting trauma both men experienced have kept the Pascagoula abduction as one of the most credible and fascinating UFO cases ever. Chapter 11. The Cash Landrum Incident. On December 29, 1980, Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and Vicki's young grandson Colby were driving along a dark, lonely road near Dayton, Texas, when they had an encounter that would change their lives forever. Out of nowhere, a bright light appeared, and as they got closer, they saw a massive, diamond-shaped craft hovering over the trees. The heat coming from the object was so intense that the dashboard of their car felt scorching hot to the touch. Betty got out to take a closer look, but quickly rushed back inside after feeling the burn of the heat. As they watched, a group of military helicopters, later identified as Chinooks, surrounded the strange craft, adding another layer of mystery. Eventually, the object lifted off and disappeared into the sky, with the helicopters following behind. Shaken by what they had just seen, the group continued their journey. But the encounter wasn't over. Within hours, all three started showing signs of severe illness, including blisters, hair loss, and symptoms similar to radiation poisoning. Betty, who had been outside the car the longest, suffered the most, with her health deteriorating rapidly. The family reported the incident, but despite investigations, the US military denied having any part in it. So, what was that craft? Was it an alien spaceship or a secret military experiment that went wrong? The Cash Landrum incident is one of the most disturbing UFO cases because of the physical harm suffered by the witnesses, who struggled with health problems for years. And with the military helicopters involved, this case remains a mystery that continues to captivate UFO researchers to this day. Chapter 12. The Mundra UFO Incident. In the middle of Australia's vast Nullarbor Plain, the Knowles family went through one of the strangest and scariest UFO encounters ever recorded. It happened on January 20th, 1988, while the family, Faye, and her three sons were driving along a remote highway near Mundrabilla. They noticed a bright light in their rearview mirror, thinking at first it was another car, but soon they realized it was something much more frightening. An egg-shaped craft came closer to their car, surrounding it in blinding light. Suddenly, the car began to shake violently, as if it was being lifted off the ground. In a panic, Faye reached out her window, but quickly pulled her hand back, saying the object felt like a sponge. The family also heard a loud humming sound, and black powder started to fill the car as the UFO held them in its grip. After what seemed like forever, the object let go, and they sped away in pure terror. They reached the Mundrabilla Roadhouse, shaken and scared, with their car covered in dents, scratches, and burnt tires, proof of what they had been through. The Mundrabilla UFO incident became a huge story across the country, with news outlets and UFO experts flocking to talk to the Knowles family. Was it aliens, a secret military craft, or something else? To this day, the family stands by their story, claiming they were chased and attacked by something not from this world, leaving behind one of Australia's most mysterious UFO encounters. Chapter 13. The Shag Harbour Incident. In the small fishing village of Shag Harbour, Nova Scotia, something unbelievable happened on the night of October 4th, 1967. It's often compared to the famous Roswell incident in the US. Around 11:20 p.m., bright amber lights appeared over the harbour, seen by locals, police officers, and even military personnel. These lights were unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. Hovering low over the ocean, 4 lights moved steadily, then suddenly tilted at a 45-degree angle and plunged into the water with a loud hissing sound. At first, people thought they had just witnessed a plane crash, but something didn't add up. The water where the lights went down was covered in a weird, glowing yellow foam, and a strong, sulfuric smell filled the air. Local fishermen, some of the first to respond, described the scene as eerie and strange. Despite a thorough search by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, and fishermen, no wreckage was found. Soon, the Canadian Coast Guard and Royal Canadian Navy got involved, sending divers to explore the area. For 3 days, they searched the harbour but found nothing. No debris, no bodies, and oddly enough, no missing aircraft. The glowing foam disappeared, leaving behind more questions than answers. The Canadian Department of National Defence officially called the sighting a UFO, but nobody could explain what happened. Was it a spacecraft from another world? A secret military test gone wrong? People have many theories, but none of them have been proven. Even decades later, the Shag Harbour incident is still one of Canada's best documented UFO sightings, and it's as mysterious as the night it happened. Chapter 14. The Westall UFO Incident. April 6, 1966, started like any other day at Westall High School in Melbourne, Australia, until around 11 a.m. when something unbelievable happened. Over 200 students and teachers looked up and saw a metallic, saucer-shaped object silently hovering above them, reflecting the sunlight. This wasn't just a quick glimpse. A large crowd watched in awe as the UFO floated in the sky, came down low, and then landed in a nearby area known as the Grange. Excited and curious, many students ran toward the spot where it landed, hoping to get a closer look. But by the time they reached the area, the strange object had already taken off again, vanishing behind some trees. Some witnesses even said they saw multiple UFOs, while others noticed strange circles in the grass where the object had been. Despite the number of people who saw it, the authorities brushed off the incident and didn't offer any real explanation. But those who were there knew they had seen something out of this world. Many recalled hearing a faint humming sound as the craft zigzagged through the sky, moving in ways no aircraft they knew could. The Westall UFO incident remains one of the biggest and most debated UFO sightings in Australia. Even today, people are still wondering, did those students and teachers witness an extraterrestrial event, or was it something else, like a secret military test? Decades later, the mystery is still as unsolved as the craft that disappeared that day. So, what do you think? Are these real encounters with extraterrestrial life, or just another layer to the world's unsolved mysteries? One thing's for sure, stories like the Cash Landrum incident and the Phoenix Lights make it hard to deny that something strange is going on. If you enjoyed this dive into some of the most chilling UFO cases out there, make sure to hit that like button and let us know in the comments which story left you speechless. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unknown. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.